Stowe is the top independent co-educational school for day and boarding, particularly specialising in developing the all-rounder. Could I please have 50 successful Oxbridge candidates this year? You'd have to ask them. I think they see me as individual as they are themselves and a bit of a maverick, and that's the sort of pupil we like. So I think I probably match the pupil body quite well. Absolutely nothing. I don't do stress. I quite like paintings, and there's a painting sitting on the shelf here which I haven't told my wife about, by a Cornish artist, and so I do buy art because I just love art. So that's my biggest extravagance. But this is slightly giving the game away because I'm not supposed to have this. But anyway, there you are. Let's go for the artist of that painting, Peter Lanyon. I did a PhD on him, and I think he's the most significant post-war artist in Britain. Perhaps the one that I gave you earlier. I'll change that into an anecdote. So I'm going to tell an anecdote about myself. So I applied for a job at Stowe in October 1985. Turned up at Milton Keynes station and rather grandly said to the taxi driver, "Take me to Stowe," which he did. He had never been to Stowe, so he drove up from Buckingham up towards the Corinthian Arch, and he said, "Is that Stowe?" And I said, "Well, Corinthian Arch, it probably is Stowe." So anyway, so we ended up at the far end of the estate, about a mile away from where I was supposed to be. It was about 10 minutes before the interview began, and this was it was a sort of history job. I think it was a temporary cover job, and you turn up there. There's no obvious path to get from the Corinthian Arch to the main building. So I thought, well, I've only got 10 minutes, so I'm going to go straight across the field. And I was only 21, straight out of university, and I hadn't thought about ha-has. People don't think about ha-has very often. And I didn't think about the ha-ha. Anyway, so encountered the ditch, and I'm not athletic enough to jump over the ditch and sort of do a, Tom Cruise Mission Impossible. So anyway, I jumped into the ditch, which was full of water and mud. Climbed out of the ditch and got to the house, and I met a chemistry teacher, and he mistook me for a boy, and he said, I was covered in mud and I was sweating profusely, and I was now late. And so he said, "Are you here? Are you with the Beagles?" And I knew what a beagle was. I'd done some beagling before, and I said, "No, I'm here to be interviewed." And he said, "Well, you don't look like an interview candidate." He obviously thought I was mad. Anyway, so I arrived late, looked as if I was a person escaped from a lunatic asylum covered in mud, interviewed in this office, didn't get the job, and the lesson is, when you go for an interview, get there on time, be prepared, work out which route you're going to go into, and when you get asked strange questions like, "Are you here for the Beagles?" or "Are you beagling?" just make some sense of that question. So anyway, it took me 30 years to get back to Stowe and properly prepared for the interview. It's not a joke, but it's an anecdote, and it happens to be true. I'm a Dylan and Bowie fan, and Bowie Berlin years, not really karaoke. It's songs for swinging suicides is my kind of default setting. Not the most cheerful. No, so I don't do karaoke. I would run a mile. I prefer quite edgy punk rock, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Hawkwind. I played for Hawkwind once in the 70s, so kind of quite heavy. Oh dear, that sounds bad. But anyway, like that. So I'm not karaoke, not my scene. I suffer from a huge amount of guilt without committing any crimes. So I just don't think criminality would suit me terribly well. So I'm afraid no crime, because guilt would outweigh any pleasure I got from the crime. Easy. Enlightenment. I use the word enlightenment more than anyone else in the world. Is it a superpower? I'd like the Midas touch, so I could then stop fundraising, have £100 million of bursaries, build all the buildings, and I could go and teach and have a bit of fun. So Midas touch, please. Do no harm, leave it slightly better than I found it, a few decorative buildings, something like that.